Innuendo, Book 5 of the Todd Mills Mystery Series. Author R.D. Zimmerman. Publisher Scribble Pub Press, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Narrator Eric Aust. Chapter 37. It wasn't easy for Todd to relax. In fact, sitting naked in a hot tub with such a famous person made Todd, if anything, more tense. After all, where was this headed, and why were they even in here at all? Placing his wine glass on the edge of the tub, he sank into the hot water all the way up to his neck, paused, then slipped down until it was up to his chin. Directly across from him sat Tim Chase, his head tilted back against a cushion, the water churning and whirling up around him. "God, isn't this the greatest?" groaned Chase, his eyes closed and a contented grin on his face. "Did you find the jets?" Todd reached behind his back, felt a shot of water, and slid over. "Yeah. This should make you feel better in no time. Is it hot enough for you? I can turn up the temperature." "Actually, it's perfect." "Good." Todd stared right at him, or rather, he stared right at Chase's body. But the churning bubbles were so thick, his eyes couldn't see beneath the surface. He asked, "Have you been using this thing much?" "No. This is something like only the second time." "Really?" "Yeah, but I have a scene like this in the movie. We're shooting my character, Rich, goes to visit an old friend who's now married, and they have this sort of awkward encounter in a hot tub." "Oh, so that's what this is all about," said Todd. "The two of us, you, a married man, me, gay, in a hot tub. Is that why you suggested this?" "Well, you did get yourself a little beat up, but like I said, I do need to do some more research." "Ah, the ulterior motive." "Something like that. Anyway." Tim opened his eyes and gazed over at Todd. "Hey, I should ask if you've ever slept with a married man." Todd thought for a moment, then replied, "I really haven't had that many sexual partners, but I've done it once with a married guy. Well, kind of, that is." "And? And what?" "Well, how was it?" "In a word, humiliating." And that it most certainly was. Todd recalled the cheesy motel room they rented, the awkward attempt at intimacy, the dirty aftertaste. "Why was that?" asked Chase. "Well, it wasn't my ideal. Sure, I was attracted to him. He was an old friend in Chicago, Mike, and we got together and went to a Cubs game. Somehow it came up. Somehow he said he was afraid that he might be gay. I told him I had the same worries. Actually, this was when I was married, too. I didn't really want to try it, but one thing led to another. I don't know. He really pushed for it. He was quite aggressive." "So what happened?" "Of course, I had to pay for the motel room because Mike didn't have enough cash, and he was afraid his wife would see his credit card bill. Anyway, we went to this dump, and nothing much happened. In the end, we both got an answer, each of them different." "What do you mean?" "Well, lo and behold, he literally couldn't get it up for another guy." "But you could." "Exactly. Which left me kind of excited and exposed in front of a guy who realized he was, after all, straight. It was embarrassing for me, to say the least, and we never spoke again. Last I heard, he was still married, but I got divorced soon thereafter." Todd sat up a bit and twisted around. He grabbed hold of one of the jets and tried to turn it, but the thing wouldn't budge. "What's the matter?" asked Tim. "I was just trying to aim this thing, but it's stuck." "Yeah, they can be a little rough. Here, let me help you." Before Todd knew it, Tim Chase had floated over, and the two of them were side by side, their wet arms sliding up against each other as they worked at the jet. In a second, the device twisted in one direction. "There, that's great," said Todd as his heart broke from a walk to a trot. Todd pulled back, sitting right where he had been before. Tim didn't return to the other side, but instead sat down so that his shoulder butted up against Todd's. Todd looked over, saw the other man smiling back, and then, unseen, beneath the churning water, felt a hand on his thigh. Against Todd's will, a rush of desire stormed through him, and his heart proceeded from trot to gallop. "Tim," said Todd, his voice low and unsteady, "what are you doing?" "Research, remember?" "But, shh. The trouble with reporters is that they don't know how to listen." Oh, yes, Todd was aroused, very much so, but he wasn't going to be so exposed and left so stupidly vulnerable like that, time so many years ago after the Cubs game. No, and he wasn't going to be used, and he slid his hands down over his crotch. Besides, what did he himself really want, and what was he tempting by simply being here? But then he glanced over at a gorgeous Tim Chase, and his last defenses vanished. Yes, he could fall real hard for this guy, and a hot little voice in his head cooed, "Why shouldn't you? After all, Rawlings had his fun. So why shouldn't he?" The next moment, Todd felt Tim lean over and start kissing him on the neck. The ear. Todd closed his eyes and tumbled into it. Into him. Yes. He could fall real hard. Tim, If I were a gay man seducing someone else in a hot tub, is this how I'd do it? Well? Yes, I'd say you were doing pretty... Todd felt a hand slither across his stomach and slide up his chest. Pretty damn well. But was this just a game? Was he just being used? Tim, maybe I'm too much of a Midwesterner to understand, but you just gotta tell me if this is what people in Hollywood call research? Or, said Todd, trying to throw up a last line of defense, no, you just gotta tell me. Are you or aren't you gay? Fuck labels. Right, thought Todd. Screw 'em. And he turned into Tim, embraced him, clutched him in a desperate, almost hungry way. The other man hugged back, and Todd couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe he was in this mass of swirling water, his heart and his body pounding with want and lust for Tim Chase, and that Chase was actually returning the passion. Or was he? Could it all be simply acting? Determined not to be duped, Todd's hand drifted down the other man's side into his waist, groping for that so-called thermometer, determined to know how it will read. Knowing that a man's mind and mouth could lie buckets, but the ever-honest penis could not, and sensing Chase's taut, rippled stomach in the water, Todd lowered his hand, but Chase, realizing the destination of Todd's wayward grope, scooted back. Looking suddenly even oddly worried, Chase said, "Just take it easy there, champ. But not too fast, okay?" Now it was Todd's turn to pull back, and Todd, not without a bit of anger in his voice, softly demanded, "Tim, quit screwing with my head. What's going on here?" "Off the record?" "Of course." "You just never know. I mean, I've just gotten kind of gun-shy, you know? And here I am sitting naked with a reporter of People. I mean, my publicist and my lawyers would have a fit. You have nothing to worry about from me, I swear to that." "I'm sorry, but you don't know what it's like. I've just gotten burned a few too many times." The way he said it, the way his brow wrinkled and those beautiful eyebrows pinched together, well, Todd didn't doubt him, not for an instant. Of all the things to feel at this particular moment, the last and the least Todd expected was a flood of pity. "Really, it's okay. You have my word." "Thank you," said Chase. "Thank you very much. I have very few safe harbors. Very, very few." Tim reached into the water and pulled up first Todd's right hand and then his left, both of which he clutched between his. Then softly, yet firmly, he placed his lips on Todd's hands and kissed them, his eyes, all the while staring deep into the molten well of Todd's desire. Something he didn't know. What shot through Todd, and he just sat there, not even flinching, for he found himself transfixed as much by the intensity of the moment as by its lack of pretense. Yes, there sat the two men in that pool of hot water, naked in every sense of the word. Finally, after what almost became a painful length of silence, Tim kissed Todd's hands once again, and then his lips moved, started to explain, to divulge the hidden truth of Tim Chase, Incorporated. At that very instant, however, every bit of him seized up as a herd of footsteps entered the far end of the pool room. A deep voice from across the pool gasped, "Oh, shit!" Todd knew that butch, sonorous voice, and as if this were some sort of pathetic soap opera, he spun around, saw not one but three men standing there in the far side of the pool. And one of them, of course, was his erstwhile lover. The next moment, practically flailing in the water, both Todd and Chase were pushing away from each other. "Rawlings! What?" gasped Todd in a panic. "What the hell are you doing here?" Rawlings stood there, his face frozen in shock. He went to say something, then stopped. He stared at Todd, shook his head, and then turned and stormed out. As the water churned around him, Todd started to get up, but then sank down beneath the churning water, for not only was he nude, his arousal had yet to deflate. Furious, Chase practically leaped out, shouting, "Vic, what the fuck are you doing barging in?" "Sorry, but we have a situation here." "No, Vic, we don't have a situation. You do." Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold: to offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides, and in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.